going on, family? What is happening? What is happening? Welcome to another great episode of the Arrington Gavin podcast, brought to you by Rugged Evolution Beer Care. Rugged is the new smooth. Look, I have my words all mixed up on that one, y'all. I was about to say our smooth club. That's a whole nother story. Look, you know I like to have fun with you guys. You're tuned into another great episode here. Again, coming to you with new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, wherever you get your podcasts from. So whether it's iHeart, Odyssey, Apple, Spotify, iHeart, you name it, hey, you can tune in to the Arrington Gavin podcast. All you have to do is just type in the R Smooth Club Media Network, and then boom, you will find us on there. You can also go on YouTube, or we drop new the video version of this podcast every, again, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, 5 p.m. On YouTube at R Smooth Club Media, as well as for you Rumble subscribers out there, you can find us on there, and then also our Facebook page, R Smooth Club Podcast, as well as Twitter, well, X, formerly known as Twitter. Do y'all want me to call it Twitter, X? I'm always back and forth with it. I'm starting to get more comfortable saying X, X. But all right, Arrington. Y'all like, well, okay, Arrington, get on with it. Well, look, as you know, here on this show, we love to discuss, have trending stories regarding politics, you name it. What else do we do? We have thought-provoking discussions in the realms of sports, politics, pop culture, entertainment, the whole 9 yards. But the best thing that I enjoy about this show is that I get to bring on individuals from all walks of life doing great things in their industry, their line of work, community leaders, and we just here to have a great convo. So, of course, it is election season. 2024 is a big year right now on a local level and federal level. But, I always love to bring it back to your local, the importance of knowing what's happening in your backyard. And on today's show, I have none other than Mr. David Washington. He is the chairman for the Chesapeake Democratic Committee, which is, my home city. Shout out to Chesapeake. And, Dave's been doing an awesome job, man, and, very involved when it comes to local office. And I'm excited to have a conversation with him because Chesapeake right now has been its majority. It's been back and forth. Is it more of a red city? Is it a purple city? Is it a blue city? What's the name of the game, right? So I'm gonna get to talk with him just on what got him involved in politics, because everybody's like, why would you get involved in politics? Look, you know me, I can't do it. I'm already bald. I can't lose nothing else. This beard is all I got, y'all. This is all I got. But before I bring on my guest, I got to bring on a dad joke because I'm corny like that. So give me 1 second. All right. Why wasn't the sweet potato allowed in the band? They wanted to have a yam session. Give me my award, y'all. Give me my award. That was good. See, I'm gonna bring that on the radio show because I host a radio show too in your city every Sundays at 12 p.m. on WNSB 91.1. They don't like my dad jokes, but I bumped them because I still say it anyway. But anyway, man, let me go on and bring my guest. I got him waiting in the backstage. We're gonna have a good time. None other than Mr. David Washington. Again, he is the chairman for the Chesapeake Democratic Committee. Let me bring him on out. Mr. Washington, how you doing, sir?
Hey, how you doing? Happy to be here.
Awesome, man. Well, look, so great to talk with you again. I know a while back I had you on the pod where it was a very busy. This was like during the heart of the election, and it was some big wins at that time, and honestly, still having some big wins as of today. For the state of Virginia, we we want the Democratic Party has won the House and Senate. Our governor is a Republican, but as I've mentioned on this show before, I'm a middle person. I'm not married to any party, but I'm fortunate to have friends with people on all sides. And but when it comes to presidents, I've voted majority Democrat. When it comes to local elections, I've alternate back and forth. But one thing I do know about Chesapeake, my home city, with the city that I love, Chesapeake, we need to do better because it's a very unbalanced council. And I'll talk more about that a little later on, but I want to talk a little more about yourself, man. So now, are you originally from Chesapeake? Is Chesapeake home for you?
No, well, I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan, born and
Okay.
raised. Like so many, once I was done serving my country, United States Navy, I just used my GI Bill, went to Norfolk State University, and never looked back. Just stayed.
Shout out, behold the green and gold. See, I got to shout out because majority of my family is graduates of NSU. I always say I still have my student ID card. I took one summer class at at Norfolk State University, and it was actually in the old Brown Hall. So now it's, I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
the new Brown Hall
Yeah,
is crazy. But
crazy, right? It's
I mean,
beautiful,
it's
right?
like when I drive past, I'm like, I can't believe that I was in that old. That thing
Right,
was, I mean, it was scary looking at the time.
right,
But anyway, I'm grateful
right.
for for that class, and we have a lot of family
Mhm,
there, and also my radio show is owned and operated by Norfolk State University. Shout out to WNSP
okay.
Hot 91. But no, that's awesome, man. So currently you are the chair for the Chesapeake Democratic Committee. Man, what got you involved? What got you involved in politics in general, not just local, but just politics?
Yeah, well, for me, my journey in politics started when I was very young.
Mm,
I grew up around a what would you would call a city machine in Detroit. Um, I grew up. Aretha Franklin's father started a what we called started recruiting a slate of candidates to run for local office. For those who don't know, Aretha Franklin's father was very politically active. He was a
mm,
leader in the Black community, understanding the importance of getting folks to register to vote and particularly getting African Americans to understand the importance of getting politically active. We have the first mayor of Detroit, Comey Young, members of Congress, Carolyn Cheeks Kilpatrick, and then later on, her son would be the mayor of Detroit, Kwame Kilpatrick, John Conyers, Barbara Rose Collins. These folks were the first African Americans elected to higher office in the late '70s, early '80s, going into the '90s. So being around that culture, I'm 13, 14 years old, going to rallies, knocking on
wow.
doors, talking to voters. I just caught the bug, and it's always been in me. I've been working on political campaigns since I was actually getting paid since I was 19 years old.
Wow.
And actually, after I completed my 4 years in the Navy, my very first job, my very first paid gig, was working for the Obama campaign in 2007.
Wow.
I got out the military and I jumped right back into politics, working for the Obama campaign during the primary of 2007, and haven't looked back.
Man, that is awesome. That is awesome to hear. Question: would you recommend like kids at well, not kids, but like young teens really having more of a knowledge base when it comes to politics? Because I know right now the legal age I believe is 18, and there's been
Mhm,
talks of even sometimes lowering the age because there's some young kids out there that knows a lot when it comes to politics. I myself I think I was aware of politics, I believe, like maybe seventh, eighth grade. When Obama won, when he won presidency, I was in seventh grade, and it was so much. I, it was a history that was being made because I remember my parents had said, "Oh no, you're not going to school today. You're gonna watch this inauguration because this is big. This is big. You have to watch this." So at the time, I'm like, "What am I really watching?" I knew obviously we have presidents and this and that, but at that time, I never knew governors, I never knew senators, I never knew anything about that. I think fast forward and when I was in college, then I started really coming with an understanding, learning when it comes to House, Senate, even on the local level, and I'm like, oh, okay, now it's starting to come to me. And for me, I'm like a political junkie now. I mean, I watch all news from all sides. I'm on VPAP all the time, checking out. Okay, let me see what they got going on. I'm like literally that kid where it's like none of my friends want to hang out with what I'm doing. Like, Aaron, what you watching on TV right now? Well, they got a town hall about. All right, next. Like it's very important to have that knowledge and to know what's happening in your community because it's so easy for citizens and residents to complain about a pothole or tolls and this and that, but
mhm,
again, what's the solution? I know when you mentioned Detroit, one of my favorite media personality, radio host. He's just passed, but shout out to the Black Eagle, Joe Madison. I know
Yes,
years back he had a
yes,
radio show out in Detroit, and
yes.
he had his slogan on, at least on Sirius XM, which he was on for about 15 years, 15 plus.
Mhm.
He always said, "Okay, what are you gonna do about it? Because we can't all just continue to complain and this and that and the other. We always have to come with a solution." But yeah, man, I know I'm kind of ranting off, but do you recommend, like, young individuals to know more, get more involved when it comes to politics?
Absolutely. To just educate yourselves on what's going on or in around you when it comes to and just don't get stuck on the presidential stuff or what goes on in Washington D.C. Educate yourself about who's leading you at the local level in terms of your mayor, in terms of your city council, in terms of your school board. I always encourage young folks, in particularly, to look at your school board because those are the folks that are deciding what happens in the schools that you're going to, in terms of the policies and the rules and the procedures. So you want to be invested in what they have going on. You want to be invested in terms of how they're allocating the funds that the city council is allocating to them. City council makes the budget, and then the school boards disseminate those funds. How are they disseminating those funds? Who's getting those funds? Are those funds being shared equally amongst
Mm,
all the schools? Sometimes certain schools get preferential treatment over others. Some schools get building projects over others. Be conscious of what they have going on. So that to me, that's extremely important that young adults be engaged. And they don't have to wait till they're 18 years old.
mm.
They can be, if they, 16, 17-year olds, I really encourage them to take a serious look at what's going on at the local level that really impacts them. I always tell folks that 70% of things that they complain about on a day-to-day basis can be handled at City Hall. And people
Mm.
and folks always look at the president. Folks always look at Congress. A lot of things that folks are concerned about, like you talked about the potholes. The president of the United States can't fix your potholes, but the mayor and city council can, and that's where the fight is. So folks need to understand where the fight is before they start complaining or who they're complaining to.
And to add on to what you're saying, David, I know previous well a while back I had a newly elected state senator, Angela Williams Grave, on,
Mhm.
and she was saying how there's people that can always say, look, I'm going to go to the president, I'm going to call the White House. Well, guess what?
Mhm.
The White House going to call the state, and then the
Right.
state going to bring it down to the city. They coming right
Yep.
back to us, so you might as
Right.
well. And I think
Right.
and I think too that citizens and locals, they sometimes will, I don't know if it's a little bit like intimidation. I mean, I can just speak for myself. Like, I'm not a crazy about public speaking in front of crowds and this and that and the other. And then when you come up to council, and I believe it's about nine
Mhm.
individuals, all, it can get a little nervous.
Mhm.
And it's usually easier to just do one-on-one. And initially, because now I'm fortunate to be friends with a lot of people that work in local, state, and federal office. But like, I used to think like, well, I just don't want to walk up to them. They busy. They don't want to be bothered. They don't want to be bothered and this and that. But it's like, no, we want to be bothered. At the end of the
Right.
day, we always have to remember that they're here to serve the community. They're
Mhm.
not here to be, a superior. They're just here to serve the community. So whatever issue that you have, please, voice your concern, and we'll look into that. I mean, especially when they always will say, hey, look, have my number, have my email, contact my office, this and that and the other. I mean, it's very, very important that we continue to push that narrative, and so that people don't just assume that, hey, look, they're celebs. I mean, yes, they're very known in the area, public figures, but at the end of the day, they do mean well, and they're very harmless.
Right. Right. Exactly. And if you're not one for public speaking, because that's not everybody's strength, you can send them an email. You can make a phone call. You can. There's other ways to engage your elected officials. If public speaking is not in your wheelhouse, if that's something that you're not comfortable doing, There's other ways of doing that. There's also advocacy work.
Mhm.
You can do things behind the scenes. You can work with your local civic league in your community to do advocacy work. So those that are comfortable speaking truth to power, you can help. You can work with them and help them make their case as to why there should be resources allocated to your community. So there's other ways to do it outside of being the one at the head doing all the talking. There are things that you can do behind the scenes. You can look, you can join your local Democratic committee and support our initiatives that way, so you can still be empowered without putting yourself out there like that if that's something that you're not comfortable with doing.
And that's a perfect segue to my next question. So, being a part of the Democratic Committee here in Chesapeake, and I'm a lifelong Chesapeake resident, and I'm speaking to you as a friend. This is simple conversation. In my opinion, Chesapeake has always been a red city. It's been very conservative. Now, my district was Hickory High School. I attended private school in Norfolk, but that was my side of town. So, and
Mhm.
even around the Greenbrier area, and when I go all around, whether if I'm in Chesapeake Square, Greenbrier, I'm like, it's a little more. I just get a little more of a conservative feel
Mhm.
to the city. With the Democratic committee, what are the values that is the mission with the Democratic committee, for our listeners and viewers out there that might be interested? Hey, look, I'm interested in a party. I'm at a toss up to see which one I'm feeling more to check out, and especially when it comes to uh uh members, people on council, or upcoming candidates. Like, what are some of the Democratic values that at least the Chesapeake Democratic Committee are always fighting for and continue to push out for the community out in Chesapeake?
Well, the role of the Chesapeake Democratic Committee is those candidates that their values are in line with us in terms of voting rights, in terms of uh, economic opportunity, in terms of people that have been providing a voice
Hmm.
to marginalized communities. If we want people to believe that we are here to be a voice for the community and for the people. Now, I will say this: when it comes to conservative or liberal, or Chesapeake, to me, Chesapeake is more purple than anything. Now, what has happened is that, unfortunately, um, uh, we have a Democratic state senator, which is Senator Louise Lucas. We have not one but two Democrats representing us in the House of Delegates, Delegate Cliff Hayes and Delegate Bonita Anthony. And so there are Democratic pockets. And then also, let me say Delegate Nadarius Clark, he still represents a small part of the
Hmm.
Western Branch portion of Chesapeake. So there are Democratic pockets within the city of Chesapeake. Now, my data will state that if Democrats show up in the numbers that they're supposed to show up, or how they normally show up in the Chesapeake in the presidential election, Chesapeake goes blue. Joe
Hmm.
Biden won Chesapeake in 2020. Barack Obama won Chesapeake citywide. These are citywide elections. So
Hmm. Hmm.
Joe Biden won Chesapeake citywide in 2020. President Obama won Chesapeake citywide in 2012 and in 2008. So this notion that Chesapeake is this bastion of red of the sea of red is not true. The data does not support that. But the issue that we have, and this is what I'm trying to encourage, and this is really our role, is encouraging people to don't just vote for Biden or just vote this year. Senator Tim Kaine's going to be on a ticket.
Hmm.
Don't just vote for Joe Biden. Just don't vote for Tim Kaine, and just leave the rest blank. Vote for our entire slate.
Yeah.
Just don't. We're going to have a candidate for mayor. We're going to have candidates for city council. We're going to have candidates for school board. please take a look at our slate of candidates. There will be a time where folks can go to our website. Right now, we're in the process of endorsing candidates. We will get through that process. Probably we'll officially announce who our endorsed candidates are going to be probably towards the end of March.
Mhm.
And folks can look at that slate, do your homework on our folks, and we would love for you guys to really take a look at our candidates and evaluate our candidates versus the Republican endorsed candidates. We believe that we have a very strong slate of candidates, but we need for folks to vote for the entire slate. Don't just vote for the top of the ticket and then leave the, because that's the issue that we have in Chesapeake.
Yeah.
We have folks that will vote for the top stuff and then leave it alone. We need for folks to vote for the entire slate. If you're voting for Joe Biden, I need for you to vote for our mayoral candidate. I need for you to vote for our city council candidates and our school board candidates. Do not leave any portion of that ballot blank. That's been the challenge that we've had, and hopefully, if folks do that, we'll come off successful on election day.
What would you say will be some of the like solutions to solve that issue when it comes to, people focus more on the higher office than really the when it comes to mayoral, city, and school board, that's really your bread and butter right there. You really want to learn from that and then work your way up, because at least for me, I would think that. Oh.
So what happens is that um, uh, what's going to happen? Presidential,
Hmm.
Congress, U.S. Senate,
Hmm.
they're going to get all the TV time. Folks are going to get absolutely tired of. Get ready, y'all. Y'all going to see wall to wall commercials. Those of y'all who even if you're on your phone watching a outstanding podcast like yourself, a commercial's going to pop up of a presidential candidate race or a congressional race or a Senate race. Y'all gonna get phone calls and emails out the yin yang
Text
telling
messages,
you
you name it.
this messaging is coming. It's coming. Brace yourselves. Get ready. It's coming. I apologize in advance, but it's coming. Um, so they get all the attention. So that's what folks they pay. They get so much because they have millions of dollars being invested in those campaigns.
Hmm.
Mayor, city council, school board does not have those same type of resources. However, it's upon folks like myself to do the best job that we can to try to get our mayoral candidates, our city council candidates, our school board candidates, get their information out, get the word out as much as possible. Use social media, use the tools that we do have at our disposal with the limited resources that we have to get the information out as
Hmm.
much as we can. So that's something that we are working tirelessly on with the but I also need for folks to do your homework. You know that a mayoral race is happening in Chesapeake this cycle. You know that a city council race is
Right.
happening this cycle. You know what a school board race is happening this cycle. The information is out there. Look for it. You can go on the Chesapeake Democratic Party's website. We're going to have our endorsed candidates. Probably you can look on our website. Probably going into the month of, probably as soon as April, you can go on our
Hmm.
website and you're going to see our candidates, our endorsed candidate roster there. So the information is there if folks willing to look for it. So we're going to also do our absolute best to get that information out ourselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because again, when I look at our council and I look at our school board, and I'm like, wait a minute, because even though they don't, during local elections, they don't have the letter in front of their name, but you obviously, will see uh whose side they might get endorsed by, or like, when you go to local events, campaign events, you're like, okay, I see exactly which candidate is really as far as party affiliate. And I'll just to my knowledge on our council, I believe we just have there's one there's one person representing the Democratic Party in our council, and I mean, I think there's zero in the school board. The rest are all Republican. And again, I'm interact. I'm friends with a good portion of them on council and school board, and they're nice people. But we all do want a good, much of a balance. And again, I've mentioned so many times here on this show. I mean, we're an unbiased show. I'm independent, but I do believe in having a balance of leadership, because at the end of the day, it's not like Chesapeake is filled with only Republicans, right? You're filled with so many, people from all sides of the aisle. And I think it will be best and beneficial for the community to have those voices on. And like you mentioned too earlier, David, like they people need to have a voice representing them in office. And I look at I believe the last election, there was an article about two of the precincts during early voting that council
Mhm.
had voted to remove that for early voting, and those are predominantly black neighborhoods, which
Right.
for me, I'm like, that's not fair, because for one, whether if it was voter turnout, because that's what they had said, voter turnout, so that was the reason why they took that. I'm like, but at the end of the day, were people still voting? Because those votes still count. So
Right.
regardless, I'm like, I'm not liking that, response. Well, low voter turnout, so we had to remove that. But
Mhm.
eh, I wasn't too happy about that. What was your response, David, when you heard about those
Well,
news?
I was in the middle. Yeah, I was in the middle of that fight.
Mm,
So what happened was, let me give folks context of what happened, because there was some misinformation about that going on as well. What
mm-hmm,
happened was that the electoral board, we have an electoral board, and when the governor, anytime when the governor is a Republican, the governor gets three seats on the electoral board. Every city has an electoral board. There's
mm-hmm,
three seats. When the governor is a Republican, the Republicans get two seats, the Democrats get one. And when Democrats is in the governor's mansion, vice versa, two Democrats, one Republican. So we're in a situation where we have a governor, the governor's in control, so the governor gets two members of the electoral board, and only one Democrat's on there. That Chesapeake electoral board made the decision that they were going to take away those two precincts, Camelot, I believe it was Camelot, and the Cuppy Center. So
mm-hmm.
early voting location in the Cuppy Center, early voting location in Camelot. They took those away. And in previous years, those were early voting locations, and like you said, both of those early voting locations are in the heart of the Black community in Chesapeake. Now, we went to City Council and complained, because City Council but is supposed to have final say on
Mm-hmm.
those matters. And you are correct. Right now, we only have one Democrat currently on City Council. That's Dr. Ella
Dr.
Ward.
Ella Ward. Mhm.
So we were already up against it. The City Council decided to approve. Well, unfortunately, the majority of them decided to approve the electoral board's recommendation. Um,
Mhm.
so so this year, that is something that we are going to be fighting early. And we're going to start that process of that's going to be like our first fight, even before the
Mhm.
election starts, is fighting to get the Coffee Center early voting location open, getting the Camelot Community Center being a part of early voting. And our position is not about Democrat, Republican. During presidential elections, the lines are crazy long,
Yes.
especially during those peak hours of 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. during the lunch rush, and from 5 to 7, those lines can get crazy long, and that's a deterrent for folks. Folks drive past their polling place and they see the line wrapped around the building. Like, I ain't doing that. So, so our position is, look, because it's a presidential year and the lines are going to be long, let's help mitigate that rush, and let's let these folks but let some folks vote early so the lines are not as long.
Absolutely.
And so that will help mitigate those long lines on election day. So that's going to be our position. So, and hopefully the electoral board will work with us in mitigating and helping us mitigate that. So that's what we're going to be pushing for this year.
Oh yeah, man, and I think that's extremely important, because I remember during early voting, I had voted at the registrar's office, but at the time it was like you can only vote at the registers. I forgot which
Right.
date or period it was, but it was like you can only go to your local registrar's office. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, is there one over there on the other side of Chesapeake, like, in the
Right,
Chesapeake Square area? I'm like, do they have to
right,
come all
right.
the way? I mean, that's an
Right.
inconvenience.
Now,
That's a lot.
now there will be a time where the only place that they are going to allow you to vote is at the registrar's office. But there's
Mm,
supposed to be a window, I believe, going start toward the end of September through election day, where there's going to be satellite locations. One of those satellite
gotcha.
locations should be at Russell, which is towards the western part of the city.
Hmm.
Like I said, hopefully we'll have one at Camelot. We'll have one at the Cuffy Center. It'll be the Central Library. It'll be so. Hopefully we'll be able to have them at multiple places, and fairly distributed amongst the city, so folks feel like they can vote early and get it out the way, so to avoid the lines that are eventually going to happen on election day.
Absolutely, man. And look, before I kind of close, I want to definitely ask, what are some of the important things you would love to see in the city of Chesapeake? Because at least start off by saying, as a resident of Chesapeake, um, we've never had any form of we've had we don't have an entertainment venue or a convocation center. We have a lot of high school students that have graduations outside of the city of Chesapeake. We don't
Right.
have our own space where we can have events. And then on top of that too, we've always been, and I've mentioned with some of my friends before, who has served and who is running for office. I'm like, as a kid, I remember when I was going to hang with my friends, I would hang either at McGotham Mall, or we had in Linden. It was either Norfolk or Virginia Beach. I never said, "Oh, come over to Chesapeake. We got the what do we have? What do we have?" And I mean, we just recently lost the Regal Cinema, which, I mean, movie theater, that's a whole nother story.
Right.
A lot of brick and mortar is kind of slowly depleting. Malls are not as popular as they used to. The Regal Cinema just closed. I mean, for after years, I think it opened up in like 95, 96. So that was there for a long time. So it's like, okay, now what do you have to offer for, something for the adults to enjoy, or for the
Mhm.
older teenagers, to enjoy? We have absolutely nothing when it comes to a convocation center.
Mhm.
I know in certain areas, community swim pools and tennis courts. It's just, I see as though that in certain areas of Chesapeake, they have certain areas will have a lack of opportunity and lack of activity and stuff, and lack of resources in their surrounding areas. But in, say, a more of a wealthier side,
Mhm.
they have it all. They have all the bells and whistles, and I don't think it's fair. And maybe it might lead to. I know there's been conversations about possibly having Chesapeake with the district system or ward system, because
Mhm.
we have a lot of people on council that are a majority of people on council actually represent one side of Chesapeake, and not
They
a
do.
full. Because I think we're one of
Right.
the. I think
Right.
it's us, Hampton, that still does the at large. Portsmouth, I believe they do at large
Right.
too.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's some of your what do you hope to see with Chesapeake? What are some of the things you want like to see improve, or what's some of the issues that you see going on in Chesapeake?
Well, when you talk about the
Hmm.
disparity on one side of town versus the other, I say that also with school infrastructure.
Mm,
Some of the schools on my side of town, which I live in the Georgetown community, right next to South Norfolk community. Some of the schools still look like, from an infrastructure standpoint, they look like they're still in the 1980s,
yeah,
1990s.
you ain't lying. You ain't lying.
so 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 that's why you need to have representation. So I will say this, that's the reason why we need folks. If folks are concerned about, hey, my community doesn't have this, but when I drive on the other side of town, that community seems like they have it all. They have things that my community does not have. That's the reason why you have to have folks on city council. You've got to have folks to represent you on the school board.
Mhm.
Now, and that's the reason why this election is so important, that we get those folks in place. Now, the ward system is a fight that we're going to be dealing with in 2025, going into 2026. That
Yeah.
is a we are going to be fighting that. It's going to be that's a long-term fight. That's going to involve lawyers. That may be even involve someone in the city. That may be involved getting that may be getting the House of Delegates and the state Senate
Wow.
involved.
Wow.
They didn't have to pass legislation because the Republicans know, because this is what happened in Virginia Beach. As soon as Virginia Beach went to a ward system, you look at how the look of their city council and their school board changed overnight. Like
That's right.
literally, the faces, more folks that look like you and I got on that school board and on that city council, to the point where a Black woman feels comfortable running for mayor of Virginia Beach. As a person that worked in politics in Virginia Beach 10 years ago, they would have laughed you out the building if you said that a Black woman that's running as a Democrat is running for mayor of Virginia Beach. Folks would have said you are crazy. But
I'm thinking of something in my head too. It's okay. It's a podcast. Just in case that would have slipped off.
but because the culture shift has changed in that city, just off of them creating a ward system. Now a Black woman, it feels comfortable. I'm not saying that I don't know if she's going to win or lose, but she even feels comfortable putting herself out there to run for mayor of Virginia Beach. That's a huge step forward in that city. And the same thing can happen here in Chesapeake. There's no reason why Chesapeake is the second largest city in Virginia, and the largest city is Virginia Beach, has a ward system. Norfolk has a ward system. Richmond has a ward system. It makes absolutely no sense that we don't have it, but we're going to cross that bridge when we get to it. That's going to take work with our members of House of Delegates, members of the Senate, to help us get that fight. It may hinge on, I'll be just honest with you, it may hinge on who the next governor is, because at the end of the day, the governor has to sign that, has to sign off on that. So that may very well decide whether or not Chesapeake has a ward system going into 2026, 2027, whether or not who's in charge of the governor's mansion.
Yeah, and you spoke on nothing but the truth, and I've been very vocal here on my radio show in conversations. There's people in office, and not all, but some, they don't want to give up that power. And
Right.
like you mentioned, in Virginia Beach, the whole dynamics change in over an instant.
Yeah.
And in Chesapeake, I mean, we have some city officials that I'll just say been in office since '98. And it's nothing, and I'm not trying to be aged or anything,
Right, no.
but
No.
there's always time for new faces and new ideas, and of course diversity. I mean, I'm a big advocate of diversity, whether if it's a diverse group of men and women, but of all nationalities and ethnicities, because that's what Chesapeake, that's what lives in Chesapeake, right? So you have to have that, dynamic, and it's just, I hate when I do see, because I run a foundation where we cater to we have it mainly at around South Norfolk. We've had it at the Cuffy Center, we've had it at Bethany Baptist Church, and I know those that area in that community is always in need of assistance. But I'm like, wait a minute, why do I see, like, food deserts or it looks like ghost towns? Like, I mean, these places should not have a grocery store that looks like it hasn't been updated, or either it is open or closed. You don't even know, like, you're scared to even drive to there. You have no idea, and it's a shame, because yet when I always turn on my local news or read in our local articles, we're promoting Summit Point. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Summit Point. I love that we have a little town center going on, but that should not always be. It's all about promotion and getting more money in the city. But where's that money coming to? And I'm on the city site right now, and and this is another thing for our listeners. Be sure to check out your local city .gov site, so you can know what's happening in your communities, because I know a lot of people will be like, what, we got a city website? What? Yes, you got a city website. You can see who's on your council and their positions and all that good stuff. Well, on Chesapeake's website right now, I'm under the tab of city council priorities and priority projects. So they have their fully programmed and funded projects already happening, and then all the way at the bottom they have their minimally funded and underfunded projects. And honestly, the underfunded and minimal projects, in my opinion, are the most important ones. It should be number one. But it's not the funded ones. But in my mind, I'm like, okay, you look at who's in charge. You look at who's, like, are they doing that because they're not putting their requirements on there? Like, let's go. Because I'll just read a two or just a few. So we have a public safety training facility, I see, and this is on the fully funded projects. Public safety facility, public safety pay compensation. Let's see. General workforce pay, competitive work. That's all in. Let's see, make great places, that's all in the fully funded. And then at the minimal funded, I see performing arts center, I see
Mhm,
aquatic center, I see
mhm,
convocation center. That's on the
mhm.
low funded aspect. So
Yeah,
I would love to see some, some new changes in the city of Chesapeake. David, man, look, before I let you go, and I hate to I gotta ask the question because it is the 2024 elections, man, and I'm a
yeah.
political guy. I got to ask. Okay,
All
we
right.
have a big presidential election happening right now, and to be up front, there is a lot of at least young people, because I always try to encourage my friends and people that are younger. Like I have a nephew at ODU, and he's very knowledgeable when it comes to politics, but they still are they still are in that era of like, oh, well, I'm just so tired of the unmade promises, and not even just that, but I'm tired of my options. I'm tired. I'm looking more on a third party, or just I'm just not happy, right? So
Mhm.
how can people, especially being a representative of the Democratic committee in Chesapeake, how can you continue to uplift and keep that momentum going? Because right now the president is is a Democrat. So right now, hey, they're in the lead currently, but
Mhm.
it's looking very difficult with this upcoming election. Any thoughts you want to share, or anything that you've been hearing in conversations?
What my challenge to young adults that are between the age of 18 and 30, what are your values? What are your values when it comes to reproductive rights? What are your values when it comes to economic opportunities? What are your values when it comes to protecting voting rights? What are your values when it comes to acknowledging women's right to choose? What is your values when it comes to education opportunities? What are your values when it comes to your economy, and what your life could potentially be post college? What is your priorities in terms of immigration? What is your policy about what's going on with Israel, and what's going on in Palestine, between Israel and Palestine? And who do you feel more comfortable being in charge of dealing with those type of situations? Is that Joe Biden? Is that Donald Trump? Because because one of those two individuals on election night, it may be late, it may be 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning before we find out who wins,
That's
like we
true.
had to do, in 2020, like in 2020. My wife woke me up from a deep sleep at, like, I think, like 3 o'clock in the morning when we found out that Joe Biden finally won officially. So we maybe have to do that again.
Yeah.
But which one of those candidates lines up with your values? I know that certain folks may have issues with Joe Biden's age. I know folks may have issues with, okay, he said a speech, and folks didn't, he may have said something that was off, or and folks like to make jokes about that. The comedians love to make jokes about that. And it's all funny. I get it. It's hilarious. But when you look at the track record that the Joe Biden administration has done over the past 4 years, Biden administration has been very successful putting out an economic policy, putting out their trying to do their absolute best when it comes to trying to help lower medication costs, when it tries to deal with trying to deal with student debt. We have to understand that the president of the United States, our system is not set up where the president of the United States just snap his finger and just things go away. He has to work with Congress. And unfortunately, you have a Congress, a Republican controlled House of Representatives, who has been, I don't know, they've been hell bent, not to cuss on your podcast, but they've been hell bent
There has
on
been
being
worse words said
obstructionist.
on this podcast. It's okay, David. It's
Right. They've
okay.
been, they've been, they've been hell bent on being obstructionist to bills that he has tried to get through that house, because
Mm,
because they're playing politics. They don't want to see him get any wins, because they're hoping to throw those things back in his face when it comes to getting reelected. Donald Trump had told the Republicans, hey, don't pass an immigration bill with him because I want to use that against him when it comes to running for reelection. Donald Trump told them that they had a
Mm-hmm.
bill. It was a bipartisan bill, but Donald Trump, their leader, told them, hey, don't sign off on that. Don't pass that because I want to be able to say that he can't get immigration done. So that's the games that folks are playing, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a very dangerous game. But that's the game of politics. So so I want people to understand what the president has to deal with when it comes to the politics of Washington D.C. And at the same time trying to make things happen for them in terms of what he can do. But the Biden administration has been extremely successful in comparison to a lot of administrations in recent history. And so we have to give him credit for that. A lot of folks, like I said, a lot of folks just get caught up in the gaffes. A lot of folks
Yeah.
get caught up in how old he is, and unfortunately, folks don't look past that, and that's something that I really encourage folks to do. And like I said, I would encourage young folks to, which one of these candidates in line with your values and who you are as a person, and then that's the person that you need to be supporting.
Well said, boss. Well said. Well, look, David, I could talk for you for hours, man. You're always invited to the show. How can people continue to, support and what do all that good stuff? I know I do have the website here. I want to make sure I have that correct, where people can,
Yep.
check out the Democratic Committee for the city of Chesapeake. So for you
Yes.
Chesapeake residents out there,
Yep.
be sure, hey, if you are interested in, joining, is all the
Yep.
information I believe is on the web.
They can go on the website, they can sign up, they can become members. We are having some events coming up in March. We're holding a fundraiser. We're holding a bowling event. We're going to be having our annual barbecue in July. We're going to have probably some great elected officials showing up, and you'll be able to hear them speak. We're probably going to have a national candidate or elected official coming at our barbecue. We're planning to have a big gala in September. So we're going to be doing a lot of great things. And so if just folks want to just get involved, please sign up, go to our website, click that join button. The membership is only $25 for the whole year. And you can get involved in what we have going on, and we would love to have people be a part of it. And thank you so much for the opportunity.
Well, look, David, I truly appreciate it. And I will say I have literally contacted all my Democratic friends that I know that is local, family as well. I say, hey, look, if you want to be really involved, because I have family members that are very, vocal when it comes to, I'm like, look, you need to check out the website. And I mean,
Great.
I have the utmost respect for what you do, especially for your position, because it's not an easy position doing doing what you're doing. I feel and I've said that on on uh, a friend of mine who's the chair out for the Republican Party in a different city here in the seven cities, and I'm like, hey, look, it's not easy what you're doing, but hey, I
No.
appreciate you being a voice, because I mean it is important. I mean, we all again can say we can complain, but then at the end of the day, what are we gonna do about it? And you are making a difference of what you're doing. So I truly appreciate it, David. Look, don't go anywhere. Look, David's gonna stay backstage, but again, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. David Washington, chairman for the Chesapeake Democratic Committee. I truly appreciate it, boss. And don't go anywhere, David. Look, y'all, I hope y'all enjoyed another great conversation here on the Arrington Gavin podcast. Be sure to tune in every Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time via podcast. So, like I mentioned earlier, if that's Stitcher, iHeart, Spotify, Apple, what else? Odyssey. Wherever you listen to your podcast, you can tune into the Arrington Gavin podcast. If you would love to watch the video version, to see this pretty face, because I, I exfoliate. But if you want to see the video version, be sure to tune in at 5 p.m. on those exact same days at 5 p.m. on on Rumble, YouTube. YouTube is our Smooth Club Media. And yes, okay. And be sure to tune into my weekly radio show every Sundays at 12 p.m. on WNSB Hot 91 FM. The show is in your city. It's hosted by myself, along with my friends, comedian Ciroc Fox, Hustle Queen, Miss Michelle Young, and shout out to our amazing producer, Mr. Cam Gottlieb. Until next time, my friends, y'all have a blessed one. I am out. Peace.